Senior living operators face a complex set of challenges. How do you stay ahead of the pack? Listen in to From Leads to Leases, a CCR Growth podcast for expert solutions that transform problems into opportunities. And maybe someday soon you'll partner with us to generate $1.5 million and up in additional revenue per community in just 12 months. Welcome back to From Leads to Leases, where we dive into the heart of senior living marketing and sales, bringing to light the strategies, insights, and personal stories that shape this vital industry. I'm Jerry Vinci, your guide and CEO of CCR Growth, committed to helping senior living communities shine and connect deeply with the families and residents they serve. So in today's episode, we're exploring the power of niche marketing and direct marketing strategies in senior living, how diving into specific markets can transform the way communities engage with prospective residents. And who better to walk us through this journey than Keely Raff, a seasoned senior care advocate with a wealth of experience ranging from corporate marketing to crafting persuasive copy that speaks directly to seniors and their families. Keely has made a notable impact in the senior living space, bringing her passion for advocacy and her deep understanding of the older adult demographic to the forefront of her work. From serving in various director-level marketing roles to her current venture as a freelance copywriter, she's dedicated her career to elevating senior care through thoughtful, impactful marketing strategies. So buckle up as we delve into the nuances of tapping into niche markets within the senior living industry, uncovering the strategies that not only attract, but deeply resonate with our target audiences. With Keely's expertise, we're set to uncover the secrets to making your community stand out and truly connect in a crowded marketplace. So welcome, Keely, and thank you for joining us on this exploration of niche marketing in senior living.
Well, hi, Jerry. Thanks for inviting me. I'm excited to talk about this topic.
Absolutely. I'm so excited. So I guess let's just start, and maybe you can talk a little bit about how you got started in the industry.
Sure, absolutely. So I actually have a degree in recreational therapy. And so I started my career as an activity director in a nursing home. But even back then, we were kind of progressive. We had an owner who was very progressive in what we were doing and set the tone. And then I had the opportunity to move into sales. And then actually I was an operator for years. And then I moved, into marketing and creative services. So I've gotten to work all over the United States in 26 states and
Wow.
really had the chance to get to know people, get to see some of the trends and understand the power of personalizing, or what I like to call niche marketing.
So you basically got to turn over every stone within the senior living industry and peek at each corner. That's really great.
I mean, I've worked with CCRCs, independent living, assisted living, memory care. Now, the skilled nursing was in the beginning of my career. So, but yes, I've seen the continuum of care. And I think that's a big part of what we're going to talk about today is that it's not so much about care and healthcare and wellness, but it's really about the term I like to use is life-centric. And that's one of the biggest changes in why niche marketing is so attractive, I think, to owners and operators, because the senior living niche, rather than industry, I like to use that word, the senior living niche has become oversaturated and very competitive. And so as a owner, operator, or leader, people are having to look at how do I stand out, just like in any other marketing approach.
One of the things that you had said to me when we spoke the other day was that the industry was changing from health-centric to life-centric, and you just mentioned that term. So maybe you can just explain a little bit more about what you mean when you say life-centric.
Sure. And in regards to life-centric, it's looking at the potential resident as a whole person rather than how we accidentally evolved and in this niche or in this field is to wellness or lack of wellness. And so again, from when you're marketing, what's happened is that everybody goes to the hospital or everybody goes to a rehab or even third-party vendors. They send referrals of people based on their health needs. And if communities and organizations and businesses are going to continue to grow, they've got to expand their view, their target audience, to Life-Centric, which is this a person who went to the theater? Did they enjoy the theater? So then can we get involved? Can we partner with the theater versus a discharge planner? Or is this a person who likes to travel? Do we need to talk to a travel agent and partner with that travel agent? Not everything. That's the difference in Life-Centric and Health-Centric. And so when you look at the complete profile of the individual, it changes how you're going to approach and how you're going to merge that with your community identity.
Okay. So more of like a holistic approach. That's
absolutely
my physical therapist uses that term, that they're treating the whole person. They're not just treating the symptoms, right? So like, so looking at the whole person and their lifestyle and their needs and wants and how they see the future shaping up for them. Like how can we, attract them using those tools?
Again, we talk a lot about the baby boomers who we're starting to see now, right? And so the baby boomers have changed everything in every generation when they were 20, 30, 40, and they're not going to be any different at 70 and 80, right? They're just not. And so they are saying, don't treat me as I have a broken hip or I have, a heart issue. Look at me for who I am. And one of the niches that I had the chance to work with was at a CCRC. And that group of individuals were actually intellectuals that was known and had been branded as a teacher's CCRC. Well, we had to rebrand them because the occupancy had gotten down to 82%. And we did get it back up to 100%. It took us 18 months. But in that regards, we had the normal time from initial inquiry to move-in was 24 to 28 months. We reduced it to 9.
Wow.
And how we did that was by niche marketing. And that's why I use the theater example, because a lot of these folks, so we started going, all right, we need something more than just teachers. It was 330 units. And so we started looking at physicians. We started looking at teachers who had taught internationally. That was really fascinating. We started looking at professionals, but they had this common bond. So we actually went to book signings in the local area, and then we started sponsoring those. So our name became associated with intellectuals rather than going to the hospital, right? And so word got out. And people were like, yes, that's how I see myself if I'm going to live somewhere. And then we even peeled it back further because we had a huge array of apartments. And I think as an owner, operator, leader, you have to look at, all right, is the profile not just of your community, but can you profile what you offer? And so we had small studio apartments that basically face the backside over the parking lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they were not selling at all. And
nobody wants the view of the parking lot.
Right, exactly. But so what we did was we realized there was, because in our world, we tend to think of women are the consumer, and they are generally 78%. But if you're looking for a niche, that means 20 to 30% are single men. So what are single men looking for that are 70 or 80 years old? They don't want to cook. They grew up in a time frame when they didn't necessarily do the housekeeping or engaged in that. So we started creating turnkey ready apartments that were affordable, and it appealed to these men because it was easy. They'd lost their wives, usually was the stereotype. We sold them at no time at all because they enjoyed the amenities of the larger community. But then we also, at the other end, had apartments that were $1 million. And so that was a very different clientele than these men. And so I think as an owner operator, you have to really start saying, all right, what's our unique selling point? But then also look at your community and say, all right, what's sitting empty? How many days has this been on there? What do we need to look at and look for some commonality?
Yeah, I mean, so that kind of brings me to the question, like, how do you define a niche market, like within the senior living space? Like you mentioned a couple different places where you might tap into those. Yeah. I mean, and it really just sounds like just making sure that the brand is seen and known within the outlying community, not just within the community walls itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is also really looking at the profile of the resident that you have,
right,
and then determining if that is actually what you want to continue to do, or did you just take that out of desperation or a need to fill, and what's the profile that you want. And when you find a resident who kind of fits that profile, let's just say, let's go to assisted living, because I think that's a little more challenging. And so what's happened is the Shattergun approach, right? And that's where a lot of the third party vendors come in and stuff like that, is they're saying, oh, this person lives in a 5 mile radius. This person has this much income. A lot of direct marketing is done like that. This person has had a home. But who is that person, right? Are they social activism is a really big part of some markets, right? So you start aligning with those social accountabilities. Like I think of a small rural community that I worked with, and in this small town, believe it or not, was 2 colleges, but one of them was very integral in the community. So we started going and talking to them, and we, for 2 reasons. One, we went to their HR department to see if we could recruit people, right? That was a niche, because if they like us, then they're going to go out and talk about us. But the other reason we went there is we said, tell us who your alumni are. Tell us about your alumni. What do they do? And then we started getting involved on there, say, all right, so how do we support you in your mission, right? And stuff. And so for them, they didn't want us to advertise with them. That wasn't something they wanted, but they wanted us to start being a part of sponsoring some of their programs, right? That was a niche. Guess what? We got 47 residents over a year from that alumni, because once they start, right, it's just like word of mouth. But how do you do that? You have to identify a source in that community. Now, the other university, we had no relationship with. They weren't interested in working with us at all.
Yeah, 47. Wow, that's a lot. That's amazing.
47. Yes.
So
they became known. I won't say what the affiliation was, but they became known as that 47, and they took a lot of pride in that. So
that's amazing.
That was a powerful niche market. That was really in a very small town. Where we were getting, before that, we were getting 1 to 2 people who would just fit the healthcare profile. Oh, we've heard they had good nursing.
That's a good example, because I was going to ask you for if you had any like case study examples of like how this is successful. So that's a perfect case in point right there. Yeah. So, I mean, going back to CCRCs real quick, I mean, do you feel like a CCRC is more of a community type that would benefit from niche marketing, just because you have such a wide range of profiles of residents, where you've got the $1 million apartment versus, the small single apartment.
100,000.
Yeah. So it's a pretty big range.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I was reading an article yesterday about active aging, and it was interesting because that seems to be a new niche that's coming up. And many of us in our field think that the biggest competition is staying at home. And that's one of them, right? But the other thing is this active aging community versus CCRC. And so the active aging, the way they defined it, which can be people that are in their 60s. And I want to just say that I think that a lot of CCRCs are really looking at people 62 to 65 versus 78 to 85.
Yeah.
And because they stay 10 years, they stay 14 years, they stay 16 years. And that is, I think, part of the niche marketing is changing the mentality from I'm looking for a 78 to 85-year-old to a 62 to 65-year-old. So what's the difference? And so one of the niche marketing is that a lot of people are still working at that age, whether they're consultants, whether they're writing, whether they're doing something different. So then do you look at your community and say, do we have a business center? Do we have opportunity for that? Are we going to provide services that perhaps are administrative services, right? Like maybe you need somebody to make copies for you, because that's very popular, right? In the person that's 40 years old, now with remote working, people go into centers and they have these services. So as a CCRC, is that something that you want to look at? Would that be appealing to them?
Yeah.
That's something different than active aging that's just leisure. The other thing is there's a trend in CCRCs that I do think is niche marketing that's very smart, is that they're not just giving the meal plans or let me buy 1 meal or let me buy 3 meals. They're really looking at alternative services. They're looking at building with different restaurants for different needs. They're doing it at different times. I mean, and so go back again to Life-Centric versus Health-Centric. People don't eat the 3 standard meals a day. They eat throughout the day. They eat at different times of day. Do we have something at midnight at night? Yes, seniors do stay up past 10 o'clock sometimes, right? When they come in from the theater. But think about that. I love the theater one because I had so much success with the theater. When we started advertising in the theater, we got a higher, more sophisticated income ready person who had done this for their whole life. So they didn't want to become old and not be able to do the theater anymore. Okay? And so we have to stop and think about, so guess what? They wanted to have happy hour before they went out. So are we actually offering happy hour for theater night? Are we offering happy hour? And only, by the way, are we offering happy hour on Friday nights? How old are we treating people with that? People, I hate to tell you, they drink every night sometimes.
Yeah, they're only allowed to drink one night out of the week.
You're only allowed to drink on Fridays from 3 to 5. Why not have Wednesday night at 7 o'clock? We're going to do happy hour. Then they can go to the theater at 8 o'clock and come home at 10:30, 11 o'clock. So I just think that's niche marketing, is when you honor a person's lifestyle through this chapter, we stop treating them with respect. I mean, people love to talk about respect and compassion, but respect and dignity really comes from, what did they do when they were 30, 40, 50, 60 years old? People did other things besides be parents. And are we honoring that?
Yeah.
Are we engaging? The biggest thing, and I really believe in this, and it's not being done, is the big thing with older adults and CCRCs is pickleball. It's the fastest growing.
Yeah, it's blowing up. Yeah, it's everywhere now. Yep.
So how is your CCRC engaging in that?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying you have to build a pickleball court, but I am saying that you know, just like a lot of marketers will go to a hospital fair. Guess what? Pickleball have clinics. They have clinics, right? So those are niche markets that are outside the box thinking. You and I had talked about travel agents. I have a family member who's a travel agent. All of her business is baby boomers, all of it. And she herself, and so this is something to think about, niche market, she herself took care of a mother with Alzheimer's disease.
Mm-hmm.
So we had talked about that. I think what's changed in this field is that we used to not be able to talk about it. It was like cancer, just the C word, right? Now, everybody talks about, I have a parent, an aunt, somebody who's needing something. So let's create the conversation. So we are the experts. So let's create the conversations in those everyday conversations with travel agents. Because I was thinking about this after we talked. Here's a niche. Create a respite for travel agents for their parents. That's a niche.
Yeah.
And guess what? Most people who move in don't move out again. 7 to 80% stay because it was a decision they needed to make anyway. Well, the travel agent's going to be interested in partnering with you on that because it's going to allow them to grow their business. And if we all grow our businesses together, it's a win-win.
It is changing the narrative, I think, around it, because by the time I'm 55 or 60, I might want to be in a community like that where a lot of those things are taken care of. And if they do offer all of those amenities that still allow me to work remotely, to, be productive and do the things I enjoy doing, like you were saying, like before you have kids, like there are things that you stop doing when you have children, and then you kind of want to pick those things back up, whether it's art or music or, traveling or whatever.
I think the socialization too, that's a great point that you just made, is that there were things you were doing and you gave up or just put on the back burner and you come back to it. And so that's why I keep talking about the Life-Centric, is what was your social life like before, and what are you wanting to get back again, or what do you want to add to that you didn't get to before? And, you and I talked about multi-generations. We're seeing that now in CCRCs. We're seeing that in independent living. The person is 65. Their parents are 85 to 90. They're still active.
They're all together.
I know,
I can't imagine.
Yeah, there's pros and cons to that.
Yeah.
But but for the younger part of that generation, the pro is that they're also looking, because again, it's life-centric. So they're like, oh, I'm not in an old people's home. I'm in this active environment, lifestyle, balance, work life. But by the way, I have to take care of my parents. How many times do we hear about people taking family medical leave because they have to take care of their parents? Think about the power of that as a niche, right? And that's why I was saying, if you talk to HR departments of the university, or you talk to HR departments, like go and look in your city that you're in, go look it up on the internet and say, what are the top 3 industries in my city? Go talk to those top 3 industries, their HR departments, and say, would this help? Do you have people who are working with you now who might be interested in this? Could we engage with them? Would this be a win-win? It's all about, how do I be of service to you in a way that helps you continue to be successful and grow your business? And in exchange, we're offering a service. And the best part is, we do offer Life-Centric, but we do it with a healthcare environment. So that people have that sense of safety. It's all usually about safety, right? It's usually about being peaceful, a sense of harmony, reassurance, all that. And so you can combine that. And the thing is, this is a strategic move. This isn't a pie in the sky, out of the box. You look at your data, you look at your openings, you look at how do you address those openings, and then you identify that with data. And just like everything you do, you have to measure it. How did that work? What did I get? What's my return on that? Was that worthwhile? Do I put more money into it, or do I back out?
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you for bringing up data, because that's like the backbone of everything we do. And it's really hard sometimes to get providers to really stop and think about that and analyze the data to understand who their target market is. It's all there sitting in front of them.
Right. And I think like a lot of salespeople or marketing people really need to focus on that. Many times they'll focus on things like conversion ratios or this and that, but you've got to peel it back a little bit further. So that's why I'm saying it's strategic. Look at where your opportunities are, and then think outside the box to how do you create something to fill that. And then you're able to show the information, and it's always evolving. That's the thing. It's always evolving. So you have to know your numbers. You have to understand where the investments are. Again, with food, right? One of the biggest trends happening right now is that places are starting to not provide meals because they're finding people aren't using them. And it's a huge expense. It's a huge expense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they're kind of looking at the bistros and the shopping goes and the meal options. And rather than the standard 1, 2, 3, let's look at how do we create this so it makes sense. But that's all based on data. How many meals do you have? How much food do you have? How much are you? And a lot of marketers don't think about that, because the old thing is, you move into, an assisted living or an independent living because of medications and food and incontinence.
Exactly.
Right? Those are the 3 things.
Yeah.
Well, then let's rethink how we're doing it.
I think the education piece has to come down to the adult children and family members and friends of the seniors that might be looking at a community, because from a data perspective, the top 3 searches that we see on our end are not. It's not CCRC, it's nothing like that. It's assisted living, nursing home are the top 2. They get 10 times the number of searches that, say, like retirement community or senior living gets. So what does that tell you about people's perspective or perception of what senior living is?
Absolutely. It speaks volumes.
Yeah.
And people don't know that language either. Like even if you say CCRC or continuing care retirement, they
or
don't
life
know
plan
that.
community, they're like, what is that?
I think one of the reasons active aging is becoming so popular is because that's a term that's comfortable, and we use some variation of that in our everyday conversation. We don't go around and talk about being independent living. And so we're losing out just based on language, which is why the power of words is so important. And I love how you said that. We have to change the narrative. I think that is the message of niche marketing. You've got to change the narrative. Like I'll do the same thing. I'll type in older adults, because again, I'm of the age that I'm an adult child, and I don't want to be known as a senior. That's not how I identify myself. But if you call me an older adult, we'll still be friends at the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But nothing's in there for older adults. Nothing's in there. But I do want to, you and I had spoke about LinkedIn. So there is a piece that's valid in regards to the healthcare piece. That's where some of your pipeline's going to come from, right? There's just no doubt about that. But what's different is how we go about it. So usually communities will send their salespeople in to and talk to the discharge planners. But before we got together, I decided to just type it in and see. And so you go into LinkedIn, on your LinkedIn. By the way, every community, every senior leader should have a LinkedIn account. And that is not happening yet. It's not happening, and it's not a choice. It's how business is nowadays. Anyway, under the search bar, you type in discharge planner, you type in the name of the hospital, and then you type in the city and state. And guess what? It lists the name of people that are in there. And so I typed it in for one of the hospitals in this area, and it came up with referral specialists. It came up with patient access specialists, Those are new terms. That's not discharge planner. And so if you're not trying to beat your head against the wall, that's a niche market. A patient access specialist, I bet you a lot of salespeople aren't going to see those people, right? And then you build, so that's a niche market, and you grow your business. And then the other piece is go to LinkedIn and go to that university that we talked about earlier and type in type in the university or type in the positions that you're looking for. Now you make that contact on LinkedIn, which is how people want to communicate nowadays. They don't want you dropping in on them unless you've had an appointment. Or let me put it in a better way. If you go do that drop in, you might not get the same return as if you connect with them and pre-plan.
Yeah.
And that's how you get it. And you don't have to pay third-party referrals that way either.
Yeah. Even from my side of things as a marketing agency in the senior living industry that's exclusive to senior living, all of our recruitment for new clients has come through LinkedIn. All of our connections has come through LinkedIn. And this industry, people want to help. If you're here to help, people want to help you make that happen. So like we've just made connections, oh, I'm not a good fit for that, but I know someone who is, or vice versa. There's been so much networking that's happened through that space.
That's 101 marketing.
Yeah.
But the difference is the venue has changed. And that's what I call direct marketing. That's what I call niche marketing. I think it's the venue of direct marketing and then that you can measure very easily, right? So it's powerful, but what I've seen is that only the more progressive or innovative thinkers are on LinkedIn, whereas the companies themselves, why is that not a standard? Just like we have metrics, why is that not a standard that they're on LinkedIn?
Yeah.
And then we need to create niche markets of messaging for them, right? Because what happens is that people will just go, oh, we had this birthday party for a 100-year-old person. Great. That is not exciting. If I'm 71, I don't want to go somewhere. I mean, how many times anybody who's listening to this, who's been in sales and senior living, will tell you that people will say, I don't want to live with all those old people. Right?
Yeah.
Because they don't, and these people are saying this are 96. And so there's a real value in that the messaging is so important, that you're not doing the 100-year-old, but you're actually showing that we went up to the mountain and went skiing today. Right?
Yeah.
And getting those messages. So people understanding how to use LinkedIn and to the advantage of networking to get business, to get return, to get a pipeline, it can't be understated.
I think authenticity is the big missing piece for a lot on there. I mean, I call most of LinkedIn just chatter. It's just people just either sharing things that other people posted, or it's, just some type of marketing message, but there's no real like depth to it. So I think like the transfer of knowledge is super important to me. And that's what I've been doing. That's why this podcast exists. It's not here to make money. It's not here to, it's not a subscription based, like nobody is investing into this. This is just us sharing knowledge with our audience, because we want people to get better at what they do. And whether it's with us or just on their own, I want to see success for everyone. So I think
I used to say sales is nothing but education and communication. That's what it is. And like to your point about your podcast, one of the things I think you do well on LinkedIn is that you do a video, and that's authentic. And especially against the culture that we're in of AI, people don't trust messages that just come to them.
Exactly.
And so being able to see somebody, hear them talk, they're like, oh, that's a real person. Okay, I'll connect with them. And they can do that. And that's the other piece of the niche marketing piece, is communicating with people that are not only genuine and authentic, but aren't afraid to put themselves out there. Because there's a lot of texting going on. And still and that may be effective for the millennials, and so it's professional, but for the clientele, what you'll hear a lot of people say is, oh, the end user, the older person is not good at technology. That's true, but their children usually are.
Yeah.
And so their children can help them, and then can take it over and show the video and go, hey, this is Keely. And, remember we were looking, Mom, and, Keely, she looks like a nice person. Let's talk to her. Well, that's a direct marketing piece, using video to communicate. because and I think a lot of people in our industry now who are more millennial ages, who are leaders, that hasn't been their communication technique. So for them, that's out of the box thinking, like, oh, we're going to do that. Why am I calling them? We're just supposed to
Yeah.
text.
It really does make a big difference though when they can see your face, they see an actual video of you speaking, and then you're the person that they end up like connecting with in person. Like
Right.
that's a huge, or even just through a Zoom call or something, but like just to
Yes.
know there's an authentic, genuine person on the other end.
Well, yeah, I
Because
mean, you have to remember these
yeah.
generations of baby boomers and the silent generation now ahead of them
Mm-hmm.
are front porch people. Right. I mean, I love that term. They walk the neighborhood and everybody was in the front porch and talking. My husband's a perfect example of that. He's out in the yard. He knows everybody. I know nobody. And, and stuff. But that's important to him. And when we were looking for his mom and dad for an assisted living, it was really interesting because, first of all, people didn't get back to him. And then secondly, who he ended up deciding on when they did it wasn't based necessarily on the community. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what got him there was the community, right? The messaging, the niche marketing, and all that. But when he went in, it was the relationship with the person. That's what sold him on
Yeah.
it. So I do think that them in the pipeline showing that connection relationship piece is important. And that's why I'm saying you have to get out. But if you're getting out, it has to be with something of an authentic message, not, oh, we're an independent living or an assisted living and we have 3 meals a day. And I don't know about you, but I'm really tired of people going, oh, you don't have to do the housework. Well, duh, that's why I'm here.
Yeah. Hello.
Tell me something different than
Yeah.
that.
I think that's
That's just old messaging. That's just boring. That's the expectation now.
yeah.
Just like a nurse should be there. That's the expectation. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do to niche? And so again, I say to operators, you can't just sit on your laurels and sell the same message that you sold before. You don't have a choice but to create something that's unique. And then find out what profile of resident you want and then go after that by knowing who they are.
Yeah. I mean, answering those types of questions, what do you do? That's better than the competition or different than the competition, or you have to have something that's unique. And if you don't, you need to create it, otherwise it's going to be hard to differentiate in this market because there are so
I think
many
what you just
options.
said is very powerful. They
Yeah.
have to create it, and
Yeah.
that requires a lot of work. And I think that's why third-party vendors, referral sources have become so popular, is that people have forgotten how to market. And that is all the things that you just said, the questions you just ask yourself. And, there's the old term SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. Does the community know that? Do they know what their strengths are? And is it beyond the fact that you have nurses 7 days a week, or that you have meals, or that you do housekeeping or lawn work? That's the expectation. That's not a strength. How do you differentiate that from your threat,
Yeah.
which is your competitor? Because they're selling the same thing.
And the referral agencies aren't doing any of that. I mean, if you go to one of their websites and you put in a specific location that you're looking for a senior community, I mean, everything's the same. It's the picture of the community, it's the amenities of the
Yes.
community. Like there's nothing that's unique about the brand at all. So that's why I think it takes so much longer for sales teams to close those leads than if they
Right.
came directly to the community itself.
And that's one of the main things when I told you about the CCRC, that we went from a 24 to 28 month to a 9-month. One of the things that we found out, we actually did a resident marketing focus group, and we met with them every other week and did just what you just did. We asked them questions. Why'd you choose us? What do you like about this? What was different? What stuck out?
Mhm.
Because that's the other thing that's happening, especially in CCRCs. Those are planners. People, the profile of CCRC residents generally are planners. And so we would find that people were literally coming in with pages of questions that they had for you. And you better know the answers, because if you don't, they're going to the next one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I remember one guy was an engineer. I'm not even exaggerating. 60 questions.
Oh, wow.
60.
Wow.
Right. He did move in, but it was because we took the time for him to go through it. And some of them were like, oh gosh, we don't really have a good answer for that one, which is okay, because that exposes you to what you need. But anyway, when we met with these groups, what they did was the residents, they would challenge us in marketing. Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you at this place? Why didn't you talk to this? And so it helped us define our profile, and we're able to speak out, because of course they're not. And that's the thing. This is one of my pet peeves. People look at older adults or seniors as one dimensional. We have to stop looking at them as one dimensional, because one size, it did fit all when this industry started.
Hmm.
The World War II generation, they were like that. They were great. It came from the Depression. They were grateful for whatever you put in front of them to eat. They were grateful for everything you did. The next generations didn't have that same approach. They want to be more individualized, and we're becoming even more individualized, which individualized equals personalization and equals niche marketing. So you can't be lazy. And if you're waiting for the third party vendor to send you a lead, they're sending it to 7 to 10 other people. And there's nothing that stands out from you. And that's when you start hearing people go, oh, it's the price, it's the price. It's basic sales and marketing 101. What are you offering for value?
Yeah.
And you have to define that, and that comes through niche marketing.
And if it ends up being based on price, then it becomes the price war game, and then everybody loses, because then, everybody's reducing their rates just to get people in through the door.
Right.
So,
and then you're not providing, because people, and you know this, people will pay for what they perceive as value that's based on what they perceive. And I think that's the biggest difference. What do we as professionals perceive senior living to be? And what does the person, the end user, perceive it to be? That's what you got to figure out. That's the turn for niche marketing. What do they want? They're not one dimensional. And here's the thing for operators and owners, 83% of household income in the United States is people that are 55 plus. So it behooves them to put the money into the research to determine what they can get, because to your point, it will lessen that time from lead to lease. And then that only builds and grows your occupancy in your community.
So I think two final questions, and these might kind of wrap together. So I think I'll ask them at the same time. So going back to your example of the travel agent, how would a community go about creating a niche market through a travel agent? And then second question would be, how does a community that's never done niche marketing before, how do they get started? So maybe those are two in the same. Yeah.
So I think with the travel agent, it's the same relationship. It's about education and communication. So you have to look for the travel agent in your area that has a similar reputation to the reputation that your community has. Because, a big change in the field right now is some senior livings are going more to the middle class economic market and stuff. That's a big change. So I'm just saying, if your market is middle class or if it's high end, then you need to find a partner who has the same profile as you. Then talk to those owners or those people that are there. Ask them when they're doing first of all, ask them what their niche is. Ask them how they market. See if any of those markets are similar things to what you do. If they are, then find a collaboration piece on it. Ask them because they're trying to build their pipelines, just like we're having this conversation, they're having this conversation. And right now it says that it's easy because post-COVID, everybody wants to travel. Great. Then they have a market. Then the first question they need to ask is, what can we do to help you grow your business? It's always, how can I be of service? What can we do? When you find that common ground, then you meld that. It's not about, oh, we're going to have a travel night at our community, everybody come in. That sounds like a resident activity program. It's like, how are you marketing? Where are you marketing? Why are you marketing? How can we partner with you? Because we think we can help you. What are your challenges? What are your threats? And then you fill that in. And that requires you to actually engage and be willing to think outside the box, and also be willing and capable of articulating what is your senior living community. We are not just about broken hips and heart diseases and having to get assist with grooming and bathing, because that's going to be their number one block. Oh, I don't want to deal with you. You're old people. You're unhealthy. Then show them the life-centric piece of that customer and how that's going to build their business.
Right. Okay.
Did that answer both questions?
I think so. So. One last question then would just be like, what are some common challenges in marketing to niche markets, and how can they be overcome?
I think the thing with niche marketing, honestly, the number one objective is senior living professionals. They're uncomfortable going outside of healthcare.
Yeah.
And many times you might have a savvy marketer who says, let's try something. And it's really the operator or the clinical who are saying that's not my area of expertise. And so we've got to trust in the, I always say that marketers are like the scouts. We always go out. We're always looking to see what's coming, and you have to be on top of trends and what's going on. And then the operators and the clinical people, they're the ones who make sure that we execute it correctly. But since we're so caught up in this healthcare dynamic, it's uncomfortable. So I really think that's the number one objective. When I was trying to do a lot of things, people go, oh, that's interesting. Oh, I like that. But they were like, what do I have to do? So I think you have to reshape the business model, and you have to help people understand that this is life-centric versus health-centric. And quite honestly, many of the clinical people will be excited about that, because some of their feedback is that we're taking residents beyond our capabilities or beyond our staffing needs. And there is a little bit of truth to that, but it's a conversation that has to be had. I think the other side of it, so that's one side. So we have to look internally first.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to be comfortable with new language, with a new narrative, so that they understand that the lead pipeline will help solve a lot of problems that the operators and the clinical team is dealing with. That's the first piece. The second piece is that we have to write information. We have to create the narrative. We have to create digital media. We have to create TV commercials. We have to create conversations. And then we have to educate and communicate what senior living is in 2024, not even 2018. It's changed tremendously since COVID. And a lot of people are saying, no, I'm going to stay home. Oh, we were able to do it. That's health-centric, because we haven't provided the financial incentive to say, no, there's a better life, or here's an option. Let's talk about this option. So we have to be able to articulate and educate. And so if we can internally take a new view, kind of be gutsy, be a little bit of a risk taker, be willing to say, you know what, this is actually going to be really fun and exciting, because it really is fun and exciting. Because when you get down to it, it's about seniors, and everybody loves the seniors, right? Or you wouldn't be doing this. They love those people. So let's get to know them, and let's get to them, and let's engage them, and let's go, hey, better life over here. And then go tell those travel agents, hey, you know what? We can help. And by the way, if we start getting people that are a little bit younger and a little bit healthier, they can go on your trips too.
It sounds like if you do it right, I mean, you can niche marketing can essentially replace most other platforms or channels that you would try to attract people through. I mean, you talked about the college example, and 47 residents from one source for a community that had 300
Yep,
units
30.
or so. So that's a pretty good percentage of increase. So I mean, do you think that there's an audience that would be too niche to be worthwhile? And then overall, how would a community go about measuring that and determining?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
I don't think you can be too niche,
Yeah.
but I do think you have to be careful. It goes back to data, right?
Yeah.
Because it goes back to data. You have to see a return on your investment of your resources, your energy, and any advertising that you would do relative to that. And so I guess you could see a niche that's too small, but you have to be able to measure that. It's like anything. You do a 30, 60, 90-day plan, and it's not about a turnaround. It's about growth. You look each month. Are we growing? Is this in the right direction? Because one of the challenges that does happen, and I think this is why sometimes operators will be hesitant, is because some salesperson or marketing person will go, hey, I really want to do this, or I'm hanging out at this networking meeting. Well, that's great. I'm really happy that you got to spend time with them. What are we going to get from it? And then what do they say back? They say, oh, it's passive. You can't really measure it. It's intangible. So then the operator's like, no, I need you to utilize your time well, and I need to see a return on that. And so I think that's where some of this comes in.
Yeah.
So again, this is strategic. This is not like, oh, I heard about da-da-da-da-da, and I'm going to run over there. This is strategic. Like I was telling you about those apartments, when we identified a niche, because we had 20% of our apartments that were empty and they were less desirable. And rather than the strategy being, I'm going to go and discount them to sell them, the strategy was we created a niche of men. And they, at that time, they were about 80 years old, about men who were widowed and who wanted an easy turnkey situation. So then we started looking at, where do men like that, where are they at, and what do they do? And so it's not a quick fix. I mean, this is a strategic planning based on information, data, and a vision that is different than what you had. If you're not seeing progress on that, like any good business decision, you step back and you say, you know what, nice try. Because that's the other thing. And I think senior living is actually pretty good at this. They're not afraid to fail and try
They're
different
not.
things.
They're not.
They're not.
No,
Yeah.
our clients try new things all the time. It's like, oh, let's try it on one community and see what happens. And if it works, it works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, we had talking about one client, we had two small communities in Colorado, and we were not getting leads for them at all. And at that time that we started, we said, all right, we're going to try to do some targeted Facebook ads. At that time, Facebook was really big. It's not, and this was a few years ago and stuff. Well, guess what? We started getting hits and we started building SEO. But what we had to do, so talk about the internal piece, was the team was really uncomfortable. They were like, oh gosh, I'm not good with technology. I don't know. What's SEO mean? What does that mean? What do I have to do? How do I do it? So we had to provide some extra resources, right? Because we wanted them to stay true to what they do, which is relationship building and being genuine, right? But those two communities actually grew. They were bad. I mean, one of them was at 50%. One of them was, it was low 70s. And we got in a very short period of time, like under 90 days, we grew their pipeline and the team was really good. Like when you went in, they were genuine. They were the real deal. They just didn't have a good pipeline. So they were able to convert people. People sat there and said, I feel safe with you. This is a good place. I want to move. Anyway, the one that was 50%, we got up to 83% in 90 days.
Wow.
And the one that was 70%, we got to 92%. And it was just because they needed lead gen, right? But they were doing old type things like going on the radio because they thought, oh, there's a local market and everybody listens to it. Yes, they listen to it. That doesn't mean they move on it.
Yeah.
Right. But the SEO, guess what? The influencers in their lives were looking at that. And that was a niche market. And so it worked for them. Now, they're not using Facebook ads today because they're not relevant for their market, but they were then. And I think that's the important piece, is that you have to be willing to move and shift. And so there's all kinds of niche markets if you just look at who is out there and what are they doing.
Yeah. So I think it sounds like good advice would be to do your research and maybe just start with just a few, what you consider a niche market for your community, and then test it over a period of time and then reevaluate.
I think to answer your question, to sum it up, you can't keep doing what you're doing and getting the same results.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you have no choice in today's market but to find a way. And so how you find a way is you identify, and then you try it, and then you evaluate it. And then you identify, you try it, and you evaluate it. And it will work because people need these services. They just need to hear about them in a different way that doesn't make them feel old, that doesn't make them feel frail, that honors who they are as individuals and says, yes, we see you. We see you. And by the way, we're coming to where you are.
I love that. So as we're nearing the end of our conversation, Keely, I want to make sure our listeners know how to keep the dialogue going with you. Could you share the best ways for people to connect with you? And is there a specific service or services you're offering that could help senior living providers see better results?
Yes, thanks for asking. Just go to my website, KeelyRaff.com. It's KeelyRaff. And really, like I've said before, it's all about education and communication. So I really love changing the narrative, helping you with blogs, helping you with email campaigns, helping with sales landing pages, if you need ads. So if you just want to have a conversation about how to have a fresh approach to communicating, I'd love to talk with you.
Awesome. Yeah, I highly recommend Keely. She's like a treasure trove of information when it comes to senior living. So, all right. So thanks so much, Keely. As we wrap up another powerful episode of From Leads to Leases, I want to extend a heartfelt thank you to Keely Raff for sharing her invaluable insights and experiences with us. Her expertise in direct marketing and her deep dedication to the senior care industry have illuminated the path to more personalized, impactful marketing strategies that resonate with specific niche markets. So for our listeners seeking to deepen their understanding of senior living marketing or those on the lookout for fresh, innovative ways to connect with potential residents. Today's conversation has been a treasure trove of wisdom. Like I said, Keely's approach, focusing on the human element and tailoring content to every audience, reinforces the importance of building authentic connections with every community. So remember, the journey to enhancing your senior living marketing strategies doesn't stop here. With experts like Keely's help, we're here to support, inspire, and guide you through the ever-evolving landscape of senior living. So stay tuned for more episodes packed with strategies, stories, and insights designed to empower you and your community. I'm Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth, thanking you for joining us on From Leads to Leases, where we're giving you all these great senior living industry insights for free and asking nothing in return other than for you to like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who might find it useful. I'm truly grateful for your time and attention. Until the next episode, lead with strategy and with heart. Chat with you again soon. Thanks for tuning in. Explore more at ccrgrowth.com. At CCR Growth, we've developed the Senior Growth Innovation Suite to unlock an additional $1.5 million and up in revenue per senior living community within a year. We specialize in generating quality leads, expediting sales, and reducing acquisition costs. Let's connect soon.